Closing arguments are set to begin in a high-profile murder case in Las Vegas. Former local politician Robert Tellis is accused of killing investigative reporter Jeff Gehrman, who wrote critical articles about Tellis. However, Tellis says that he is, quote, unequivocally innocent. So for more on the case, I want to bring in Steve Baric. He is a former prosecutor and a partner at Baric Law. So this is a really interesting case, not only because, as a journalist, you know, a journalist was a victim, but also because Tellis took the stand in his own defense, and that almost never happens when we're talking about a murder trial. What final points will both the prosecution and the defense be looking to make in closing arguments today?
Sure, Anne-Marie, it's not only that he testified in his own defense, there's a quirk in Nevada law. He testified via a narrative, meaning rather than what we see on TV where there's question and answer, he went up and told a story for an hour and a half. And I think the key points in this, the closing argument from the prosecution standpoint is there's a lot of extremely damning evidence against Mr. Tellis. The DNA evidence beneath the victim's fingernails, the evidence of physical evidence, which appeared to be destroyed and hidden under Mr. Tellis's couch. And then the testimony itself, I mean, he came up with this fantastic story about this real estate company that was conspiring to get him, and this is all a big conspiracy. So it's going to be extremely interesting today when they start closing arguments at 9:30.
I want to ask a quick follow-up question to like the nature of his testimony. So does that mean that there was no cross-examination? He just was able to sit there and say whatever he wanted to the jury?
No, so he did that in his portion of the case, but the prosecution actually conducted a vigorous cross-examination, which went into detail regarding this conspiracy theory and also the DNA evidence and the evidence regarding these shoes that were underneath his couch, the fact that Mr. Tellis's car was seen, or a car looking like Mr. Tellis's car was seen across the street from the victim's home. So yes, there was a withering cross-examination.
So what will the jury then have to consider during deliberations?
Yeah, I think on the face of it, Anne-Marie, the prosecution has a very strong case. I think that the defense has to really make the argument that somehow this DNA evidence, which is, I think, particularly strong, that there was some sort of mishandling of the evidence by the police, something like that, a chain of custody issue. I think the problem for the defense is the defendant himself, Mr. Tellis, really locked him into this conspiracy. So I think the jury is in a situation now where they have to decide, do they believe Mr. Tellis's story? Is there enough there that makes them think that there's a reasonable doubt to acquit, or possibly some members of the jury not be able to reach a verdict so that there's a hung jury? But I think it's a challenge for the defense, that's for sure.
I find this so fascinating because I'm sure the defense had a defense that they were going to argue towards, right? All they have to do is create some sort of reasonable doubt. But then you have like a dueling defense coming from their own client. I can't imagine how frustrating that would be.
So yeah, I've handled clients like that in the past, and it's a difficult situation. In this case, too, Mr. Tellis is a lawyer. So I think there's a lot of dealing with someone who thinks they may know better than their own lawyer. There appears to be some ego here. I think that you're right. It's a real difficult situation. I think it may end up leading to a scenario where Mr. Tellis may have got himself convicted based on his testimony and the story that he's told, which would seem quite, what's the word? Fantasy. It really seemed like a stretch to believe.
All right, we'll be watching. Steve Baric, thank you so much.
Thanks, Anne-Marie.